U.S. President Donald Trump has wrapped up a historic second state visit to the UK. I'm Nicole Freilich. Welcome to the program. After a lavish banquet with the royal family, Trump got down to business with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. They signed a major trade deal and praised their nation's ties, but divisions remain on key issues.
Hailing a new era and a special partnership between their two countries. President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer projected warmth and unity as they spoke of deepening ties on defense, trade, and technology. The centerpiece of the day, a major deal on artificial intelligence and nuclear energy, with hundreds of billions in investments pledged on both sides of the Atlantic.
The deals and investment that you're announcing today break all records. What a day.
But later, the focus quickly turned to the wars dominating global headlines.
We're also working together to end the killing in Ukraine. In recent days, Putin has shown his true face, mounting the biggest attacks since the invasion began.
Starmer said there needs to be more international pressure on Russia's president, and Trump chimed in on the criticism.
He's let me down. He's really let me down.
Beneath the polished displays of unity, one issue loomed large, that of Palestinian statehood. As the UK moves to recognize a Palestinian state, Trump made his opposition clear.
Well, I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay? One of our few disagreements, actually.
Even as Washington and London remain on different pages on some political issues, the message from the English countryside was clear. The special relationship is alive, well, and entering a new era.
Leslie Vinjamuri is the president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, a nonpartisan think tank, and she gave me her main takeaway from Trump's visit to the UK.
That the two leaders managed to really marginalize the differences between them and focus on the relationship, on the symbolism, on the looking forward, on these technology agreements. There is, though, so much daylight between them, actually, on the major geopolitical issues, whether it's the extent of support that the United States should give to Ukraine, on questions of sanctions against Russia, clearly on questions of Palestine, statehood, Israel and Hamas, but even more broadly. But, those questions came up in the press conference, but really these two leaders were very much focused on building this relationship. Prime Minister Starmer clearly wanted to show to the president the goodwill that the UK has to him personally, forging that connection directly between the king and the president. The weather wasn't great. Maybe that was a sign of a more real check, a reality check on the relationship. But apart from that, the symbolism and the magnificence of it all was really remarkably handled. But we know it's going to get tough after this. These are two significant powers, highly unequal powers that don't really agree on some of the most important issues.
Starmer did hail the beginning of a new era of this special relationship. Do you think that really is the case?
I don't. I think that there are so many of us, and I'd put myself in that bucket also, that would like it to be the case. And there are certainly multiple dimensions: historical, current, security, economic, defense, technology, universities, people-to-people exchanges, language, all sorts of things that make this a relationship that should be smooth sailing and should continue to grow. But the reality is, the people of the UK are not happy with the US president. Britain's future, much of it really necessarily sits with its European Union partners, even though it's no longer inside the EU. And on geopolitics, the US is playing a hard game with Europe and just simply less interested. So I think the structures that bound these two countries together are no longer as deep as they used to be, and the leadership challenges are very significant. So I think that actually the relationship is likely to become harder to follow, harder to commit to, and more, less significant in the scheme of things over time.
They did strike significant deals, especially in the realm of tech, and Starmer sold them as something that would make their bond unbreakable. Really, what role do these deals worth around £250 billion play in the way forward?
If these deals are delivered on, and remember, there is a massive gap between pledges and execution. And so there's a big mountain to climb. It is tremendous that the aspiration is there, that the announcements have been made. The UK would benefit very significantly. It'd be transformative for investment, for jobs, for productivity and growth across pretty much every dimension. The news could be good if these results are delivered, but it's going to take continued commitment, the UK being able to really provide the infrastructure. Some of that will come through these investments, but these are very difficult things to deliver on, and that's sort of controlling for any geopolitical red flags that could get in the way and undermine things. There are also lots of questions about whether this means that the United Kingdom will have to more fully align with US standards on regulation. That will make it difficult for its relationship with Europe, quite possibly. So, a state visit, extraordinarily important, symbolically, very impressive. One doesn't want to discount it, but the reality is these are very difficult, ambitious plans to deliver, and these are both governments that are under significant pressure. And one in particular from whom there's a huge amount of uncertainty and unpredictability and the potential for reversals.
Absolutely. We started talking about how they did find a significant amount of common ground. And in that sense, this meeting was also aimed at getting the U.S. to return to the fold of its democratic Western allies, in a sense. Do you think Starmer was able to make the case for multilateralism with Trump?
I mean, sure, but what does that amount to? Does it mean that President Trump is going to reduce the ask that he has of America's NATO allies? No, I don't think so. Does it mean that Donald Trump is going to change his policy with respect to tariffs? No, I don't think so. Does it mean that Donald Trump is suddenly going to deliver across the board the kind of support that Ukraine needs? No, I don't think so. So if you start breaking down these policies, and we can see the gap, the growing gap, but again, there's still, a basic underpinning of shared values. There is historical trust, and at some level, you could say that that trust is being drawn down. There's sort of, the relationship is coasting on those historical trust structures. But it's going to take a lot to keep it moving in the right direction. The geopolitics guard against it. Europe's diminished productivity and growth guard against it. China's rise guards against it. So I think these are relationships that everybody knows in these countries are extremely important, but finding the relevance, making the case, and delivering is just much harder to do in the current environment. That's what the state visit was about. It was about trying to make the case, trying to put on a display, trying to keep America engaged in a productive way. Again, these are very ambitious, very important goals at a very tough time.
That was Leslie Vinjamuri of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. I appreciate your analysis today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.